Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. Super excited about our new partnership with FanDuel. Joining me to talk about Carlos Correa's homecoming and the newest Astros is Crawfish Box's contributor, Clayton Anderson. And Clayton, how are you feeling about Correa, just from an emotional level? Any feelings about getting our two-time champion back in Houston?
It's kind of surreal. I didn't even expect this to be the case. And all the talking about, he has all the control over things. And, I kind of checked it off, right? Until I saw it come through my feed. I'm definitely hyped because he just brings back a lot. I don't want to just say nostalgia, but just the attitude that he brings back, the leadership. We all talk about how he used to get in Framber's face, right? So, in a season where you're just losing bodies left and right, and you're just looking for somebody to look like they care, right? Like Carlos brings that in spades. So for me, I'm hyped because, again, it's like this attempt to recapture what once was. Again, like you said, don't go on everything else, but emotional level, first response, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see him put on Astros orange for the first time at Daikin, and for that, that first crowd response to see him back on the diamond and picking up the bat for the Astros. That's exciting for me.
Man, how crazy is it that his first game back with the Astros is going to be at third base opposite Alex Bregman in Boston? That's insane.
That's funny. That's fun. That's poetic almost. That's funny.
Man, Correa said the Astros were the only team he was waiving his no trade clause for. Several Astros texted and called him to tell him how excited they are. For me personally, I was just way more into George Springer than Correa, at least emotionally. And since I want to keep the Astros dynasty going, I was also in my mind, I was just kind of weighing all the elements as far as next year and where this goes from here. It's complicated for me, Clayton, because without Paredes this year, you knew a third baseman was necessary. But on the other end, they did not get prime Correa, just to let the fan base know, because over the last three seasons, his OPS 762. What about clutch Correa, the Correa that we remember? Is that still a thing? Well, his OPS with runners in scoring position, 619 this year. Not good. Is there hope he can turn it around? Yeah, because he had a 905 OPS last year. The problem was it was only in 86 games. So consistently bringing it all the way through, it's going to be interesting to see if he can do that. The good news, Clayton, and I'll leave you with this, is despite missing an average of 40 games over the last three seasons, he's on pace to play his most games since the 21 Astros season. It's kind of a coin flip what you're getting year to year with Carlos. How do you feel about the more of the technical side of this deal?
Yeah, so like you said, the more you look into the weeds a bit, you can get kind of iffy, right? Whether it's the money you're talking, compensation, or just let's just keep it at the health. We can't afford any more unhealthy dudes. So to hear that stat that this is actually trending to be his most healthy season, that's awesome. That's good. In a season where we've lost everybody, it's ironic that we're depending on Carlos, who before he left Houston, for those who remember, this man got hurt because of a back massage, I Bleav. So whatever, pass the pass. But of course, you have to play the games. Of course, you got to see him with the OPS improvement and all these things. Of course, we want to see that. That's what wins games. But I just think the intangibles, you hope that the high of the intangibles helps to just galvanize a lot of dudes, by proxy. And you just hope that, his play stabilizes. Like, we don't need him to be Barry Bonds. We just need him to be competent, available, and just to really raise our floor is what I think happened. Like bringing on a Correa and other pieces, I think that just raises your offensive floor where your offense has been your biggest weakness. So any kind of improvement he can give you, even if it's not just individual, I think you're kind of looking at that.
Yeah, people hadn't heard the Astros got them to eat some of the contract, but it's still 3 years, $70 million. And that's $3 million more per year than, you're having to pay guys like Christian Walker. You paid Jose Abreu. So look at it in those terms and what you're getting as a player. There's no debate. Correa playing third base this year is a great move. We'll get more into the Ramon Urias trade and where that kind of fits in with Correa, but he's a better player than Urias, although maybe not much better. The question, Clayton, is what do you do next year? Correa's contract, like I said, it keeps going 2 more years beyond this year. And I'd compare him to Christian Walker more than anything. Good fielder, but average hitter. At least that's what Walker's been this year so far, although he's trending up. Hopefully he continues to do so. But if Paredes is healthy next year, there are two options. Option number one, trading Paredes or Correa. Won't be easy to move Correa's contract, in my opinion. Option number two, move Correa to second base. But what about Brice Matthews' future? He doesn't look ready now. And that's where I'm at, Clayton. It's hard to figure out the plan after this year. What do you think?
No, those are great points. So, Crawfish Boxes group, myself, they were talking for hours, and we were collectively nervous over what Brice Matthews' fate even was. Like, we thought once the Correa news came down, we were waiting for the other shoe to drop, which was who they give up. Brice wasn't one of them. So obviously they care enough about Brice and see enough about Brice to have kept him to the trade deadline. But to your point, that means nothing about next season, where you got to ask, some real questions. I know we switched Cam from, infielder to outfielder, but you can't just do that for every single young prospect you get. Like, you have to have a certain kind of talent, skill set. You just don't want to do that. You want to let guys settle into their positions. I feel like trading Brice would be a nuclear option. I like Brice. I like a lot of the raw skills that he has. But yeah, the K rate's a bit high. So I could definitely see a world where if you had to choose between trading Brice, who's raw, versus trading a Paredes and Correa, I think it would hurt. But trading Brice for the right price, unintended, I did not mean to rhyme like that, but trading Brice for the right price, you'd have to understand that from a pure baseball standpoint. But again, it's a move that you made not thinking about the future yet. That's not the reality yet. Maybe in time, certain things will work themselves out. But I mean, you really will have to eventually. But it's just really kind of tough. It's really tough. It's tough because you don't want to lose anybody. But at some point, yeah, you got to make roster decisions. So we're just not there yet. But I have no clue. I just know they've shifted guys before. All these guys are kind of in contract limbo with 2 to 3 year deals. I have no idea what Dana's thinking. I have no clue.
Well, on Brice, I'll just say that from what I've seen, he wasn't ready. And I don't think they wanted to bring him up at this point. They just had to with all the injuries because, if they wanted to bring him up or they thought he was anywhere close to ready, I think he would have been up maybe a month or two before after the Rogers injury, before they had the mountains of injuries. I just thought, okay, they just didn't want to bring him up yet. They don't feel like he's and the numbers show it. I mean, he's got to lower the strike. That you said it. The strikeout numbers are the problem.
Way too high. It's like Homer or K. Single K. K, Homer, K. Like, it's just bad. He's swinging out of his shoes and hitting air.
And it feels like when I watch him play, he looks like his head moves so much that he comes out of his helmet when he swings and misses. I'm like, this is a guy that, might need to just calm the swing down a little bit.
Similar to kind of how Pena used to be, a lot of action in the box. And it's crazy how similar the two are. High athleticism, but they needed to learn how to be baseball players. Not saying they couldn't, but again, when Pena toned down a lot of the over athleticism in moments where it wasn't necessary, now we got 2025 Pena, right? So in the same way, I agree with you. Maybe Brice was pushed up by circumstance a little bit too quick. He did not have that immediate, rookie bubble that didn't burst yet. Like, he came out struggling. Yeah, there's a lot to say about it, but of course, he's hyper athletic. But in the game of baseball, for me, I've always said this for myself, I want a baseball player who can be athletic, not an athlete who plays baseball, right? Like, that's kind of my thing. But he's extremely raw, and they knew that. But it's confounding because you kept him through the trade deadline. So obviously you see something there enough to keep him now. But at the same time, you don't want to have missed the peak of his value, right? Keeping him if you're going to trade him again anyway. So that's the kind of the catch-22 in all this.
Yeah, the other part about this deal is you hear a lot of Astros fans say, well, it's not my money, so who cares? We got Carlos Correa, but you want the Astros to keep winning after this year. You don't want them to have $23 million spent in a garbage way to where you can't go get pitching because you're spending $23 million on Carlos Correa. Yeah, we're just getting out after this year of the bad Abreu money. We're just getting out of the Montero money. And people say, well, that money's gone. Now we've got it to spend. No, now Javier and other guys are going to be making more money as their contracts get bigger and bigger. Jordan, guys are hitting arbitration, all that sort of stuff. Jeremy Pena, Jake Meyer, all of these guys. So like, it's not as simple as it's not my money. This is not the way it works, guys. If you want your team to continue to win, Yeah, and you don't want to be griping next year because, hey, we can't trade anybody because we got Correa and look, he sucks this year. He looked halfway decent last year, but we did win the championship and now he's not good. I mean, the odds of you winning the championship are still, and we're going to get to odds in a little bit, but they're still way lower than actually winning the championship. That typically is the way it happens in sports. Your odds are actually pretty minuscule compared to what you might think they are, just because you got a really good team. Yeah, the Dodgers, their odds are maybe better than everybody else's, but it's still more likely that they don't win than they win. And they're the favorite. So like I said, we're going to get to that, but that's my point is I hate that sort of narrative. It's like, it's not my money. It's like, yeah, but it matters, man. It matters. It's team building.
And look, to make it kind of football related for a second, there's a reason why outside of Patrick Mahomes, and you can't even count him because he took a little bit less money than what he did when he signed that contract at first. There's a reason why, for the most part, the highest paid quarterbacks never win a Super Bowl. Like Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, like I said, kind of technical, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these record setting guys, right? They don't win because the moment you pay them, you have to get rid of the rest of the roster.
And football, like you're talking football, but even that, you up your odds way more with a great quarterback than you do with some third baseman that's going to hit 260 for you or something like that.
Right.
It's even that, Clayton, you can't really compare it. It's not apples to apples, even with what you're saying.
You're absolutely right. Again, that's your point, right? So even in that, you have to have you asked me earlier, what was the emotional reaction versus the logistical? That's why you have to separate the two and understand this is a great nostalgia move. This is a great morale move, but there are very real questions you have to answer, which is why one of the biggest celebrating points of the trade was the fact that Minnesota paid off like what, $33 million in cash that they sent back over. So that was one of the biggest hanging points to even get the deal done, was how much that Minnesota was going to pay off. Because that's what the Astros are thinking. Those are things that fans aren't privy to, but we should be if we're going to celebrate the short term. We do have to understand long term. Yes, I don't want them to be bad, right after this. Like, yeah, I would like to win this season, but I also don't want the window to slam shut because we're making just purely nostalgia moves just to make a move.
Of the three Astros trades, easily my least favorite of the three because the injury concerns, the offensive slippage, and you combine it, of course, like I said, with the contract. I can't argue, Clayton, though, that you're not better this year with Carlos Correa. That's no debate there.
Yeah, it's give and take. Honestly, low key. I know we're talking about Carlos. To your point, though, about the favorite parts of the trades, I'm kind of big on Jesus Sanchez. When I saw what he's been doing recently, the last 7 games, outfield positioning, I'm hyped to see him. I'm really hyped to see the collective. But I get it. For the city of Houston, Carlos is the crown jewel of the trade. I was disappointed that they did not get Cease. I know maybe that was a bit greedy.
Yeah,
but
we'll get there. We're going to get there.
We're going to get there. Right.
And after everything that's happened at the deadline, there are only 5 teams, according to our friends at FanDuel, who currently have better odds to win the World Series than the Astros. And, I was keeping an eye on this today, just kind of to see where the odds went. And the Astros, they're plus 1,200, same as Kyle Tucker's Cubs.
Okay.
The Tigers and Mets are plus 1,000. So they're a little bit better odds. And then the Yankees and Phillies plus 850. And the Dodgers, of course, the favorites at plus 240. Let me ask you, Clayton, what do you think about the odds? Does 12-1 sound like a good deal considering how watered down the AL is this year for the Astros? 12-1, maybe you make that bet. I don't know.
I think you do. The AL is wide open, but then you got to think about the fact that the Astros have been bum rushed by injury. So, yeah, I think it's pretty decent enough value. I mean, look, if I had the money, I'd take it. But, I don't want to give you a homer answer, but you didn't ask for this. But it's weird to hear some of the teams ahead of you because your record's better with, more depleted roster like the Yankees and whatnot. But all things considered, that's perfectly fine. If you're trying to get in a bet on this, I think it's pretty decent money. It's not going to cost your arm and a leg, and I think it's a pretty safe bet because it's the Astros. They know how to win. Plus, they're counting on healthy guys to come back as well as the trade acquisitions. I think it's it's pretty solid if you got it to give it.
We're talking about even better odds for them to get through the A, or better in that they have the Astros more likely, obviously, to get through the AL, and maybe that's the bet. And I'll talk about that some other day, but just thought that was interesting with the World Series. We're going to get to the Astros' other deals shortly, but before we do, what do you listeners think of the Astros trade deadline deals? Let me know in the YouTube comments and look for our YouTube shorts. I'm posting stuff constantly. So if you need a quick break at work, check them out. Hey, remember the Astros mansplaining meme? Do you guys remember that? Astros mansplaining meme? That guy was just on our show a couple of days ago. I interviewed him. He tells the story and says he's giving out $100,000 on his new Houston-based reality show. What is that all about? You got to listen to that show. It's a fun one. And don't forget that the Texans preseason starts a week from Saturday. We're almost there. I'm once again doing live post-game shows, but instead of right after the games, the tentative plan is going live at 9 p.m. the day of the games. That way, you will get a chance to hang out with friends, or, even if you're at the game, it gives you that perfect shot to come back, live chat with me that night. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with notifications so you can get updates on those post-game shows. Of course, the primetime games, probably right after the game, like normal. You also want to subscribe to us as well on your favorite podcast app. All right, Clayton, let's go to the next move. O's utility infielder Ramon Urias only cost you a mid-prospect, single-A pitcher Twine Palmer, and Urias is under club control next year too. Urias has a 688 OPS this year, 728 for his career. It's like another Mauricio Dubon is what I would call it, Clayton. Hard to argue against this move.
No, that's the perfect way to say that. You basically got two super utility guys. So, again, I would love to see how they deploy this. I love to get to know this. Again, he's another one of those floor movers where he's great to have. He's not going to blow the roof off with like a 1,300 OPS. He's not Aaron Judge. But I do believe as a vet, he raises your floor for whatever he contributes. So I'd rather have two super utility guys than zero.
Yeah, 1.5 years you get him for too, like I said. So that's a big deal. And yeah, I like the trade and kind of wonder if that was what you did and you didn't do the Correa trade. He's not much worse than Correa. I get Correa's got the better leadership. I get we've seen him in his clutch factor in the playoffs. Like I said, we're not seeing it much in the regular season these days from Correa. So you have those two things working for Correa, but value-wise, he's a good value. You could have put him at third base and you could have rolled with that. To me, it's a hard call, especially when you got those extra two. It's just, this whole thing with Correa, I have to wait and see how it plays out because I don't know what I'm going to think until the next 2 years. Can they get rid of his contract somehow? Can they figure out a way around this? And are we going to see a different Correa than we've seen all of this year with Minnesota and we saw 2 years ago with Minnesota? Are we going to see the Correa from which Correa are we going to see season to season? So to me, this is all up in the air. It's all a coin flip right now with the whole deal.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm going to be transparent. Thinking about those things, it's like, yeah, you know what? You might be right. When the nostalgia factor kind of fades down, it's like, okay, let's say, what if Correa does struggle coming out of the box? What if Urias kind of struggles, right? What if? It makes you question really post-trade deadline, what really are the expectations? What really should they be? Are we expecting them to be an immediate AL superpower? Or, again, are we just expecting like a more stable situation? Like for me, it's either Urias or Zach Short, Cooper Hummel or Urias, right? Carlos Correa or Trammell, who, no disrespect, Trammell is solid. But again, these are the names of guys who have been running out there and have been the source of a lot of struggles, right, amongst other people. So those are big deals, those concerns, and they are perfectly valid. A lot of fans, including myself, are more focused on the fact that I'm happy that I don't have to see Zach Short striking out on 3 pitches anymore, or Cooper Hummel, bat flipping on a hard pop out, something like that. That's kind of where my mentality is. And plus, Urias just knows what he's doing. He's a vet, like I said. He's another Dubon guy. So the more guys in the lineup who just know what they're doing, I think that bleeds back open to Carlos. At least he knows what he's doing. He knows where to be. And the hope, that's kind of the biggest thing. The hope is that he's not a disaster, that he's not deteriorating before our eyes, that he's not just an albatross of a contract, that he can at least finish out the season strong and at least make the conversation easier to have going into next season. Because you're right, Rob. I don't want to have more questions than I have solutions by this time next year. I don't want to do that because then this whole thing seems like you're just spinning your wheels.
The third trade that they made, Ryan Gusto for lefty Marlin outfielder Jesus Sanchez, who has a 740 OPS overall. But here's the key. Like I said, he's a lefty. He is hitting 814 as an OPS versus righties. So that's what they're going to use him for primarily. And for his career, 791 OPS versus righties. He's only 1.4 million in salary this year. Still 2 years of arbitration left. The Astros say they want to use him in a semi-platoon with Cam Smith because Cam's wearing down a little bit.
Okay.
Clayton, Gusto never showed he had an out pitch. So I'm not sad to see him go. This is my favorite trade of the three by far.
I completely agree. I'm glad you stopped me earlier. I completely agree. I was hyped when I looked into Jesus Sanchez to see what he did. The combination of being an outfielder, which we desperately need, since Myers has gone down and since Chaz really has not ever taken up the mantle out there. And like you said, Cam is wearing down. It's good to have a guy out there who's a lefty, who brings variance to the lineup, can actually hit for power, slightly above average in OPS. This one is one I'm looking forward to for real. Like this brings the variance that John Singleton cannot bring. A lot more balance, and it just, again, I'm hyped to see the total package, but I would love to see how Jesus factors in. And to your point also, it's the team control that Dana was able to get out of this that makes it even better. So, and again, even talking about his situation, we're not as concerned about his fit because, again, outfield from an availability standpoint is probably one of our weakest things, right? Not due to injury, just straight up performance. So I think he slots in really well. He brings the variance, he brings the pop, he brings the professionalism. So I'm hyped to see Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah, it's interesting. They didn't deal Jacob Melton. There was rumored that, he might have been involved in some stuff. So they still have Jacob Melton as an option. He's healthy again. We've seen him this week. So that's another lefty that you have if you need him. Likely is he's going back down, I would assume, as these guys start to get healthier.
Right.
More guys are added to the roster. But you also have Zach DeCenzo. Where does he fit in this mix? And Chas McCormick is somebody that we thought was going to be out the door. I don't know what they do with Chaz. They might just decide to DFA him, and it might be the end of his career altogether. I would assume that they were trying to move him at the deadline so they could get off that money. Just couldn't find any takers for Chaz. That's what I'm guessing. Who knows? But with all the injuries, maybe they're like, we just got to make sure we've got some bodies around just in case type stuff. But still, that's the thing. I think there is sort of a logjam as guys get back and you add this guy into the mix.
Yeah.
Then what do you do? Because really, Jacob Melton's probably going back down because the guy we can't forget about, Taylor Trammell, has been fantastic. Speaking of lefties, and you have Trammell, you got two lefties now in the outfield. And then Jordan, hopefully, is going to come back. So you got a third lefty outfielder / DH or whatever. So I mean, this lefty righty thing, to me, I always thought there was just way too much made of it. I think Taylor Trammell kind of made up for the lefty righty issues and stuff like that. And we're also at the point where I think if there's an opportunity to play Caratini at catcher instead of Yanner, the way Caratini's had such incredible at-bats overall, and Yanner's at-bats can be kind of all over the place, depending on if he's in swing at everything mode, which he typically is. So I just feel like I thought if you're going to go after the lefty, really, I thought the lefty needed to be somebody that could play second base because that's where they really need the lefty at, because that's the weakest position on the entire roster as far as if you talk about combination defense and offense. Obviously, if you put Altuve there, offensively, he's great, but then the defense is terrible.
Sure. No, you're right. And that's exactly why they make the big bucks, and we're here. But no, you mentioned Chaz earlier. Oh, it just hurts me with Chaz. We had hope for quite a second. We'll always have 2022 and his imprint on the ground. We'll always have that. He just never captured that. He just never took that position, no matter how many chances he got. Injuries, no excuse. He just never did it. I agree with Melton. I think you move him back down. You want to season him up a little bit more. I think bodies. I think more importantly than anything else right now is like you just need enough dudes to make it through the rest of this year, and you'll handle the fit later on down the line. And just hope on the fact that you have enough guys who are willing enough to move around or are versatile enough And then for those who aren't, you just hope that you're able to capitalize via just putting them back down in the minors to get more seasoning and more development, or you trade them in a package to continue to fortify this team in weak areas. To your point, second base, I like the fact that they put Jose in there, sprinkle him in there. But there's a reason why he's in left field more or less full time now. We know the reason why. So you don't want to go back to that. Again, that's not an answer they have right now. I'm pretty sure they care, but like right now it's just about getting through the season and glossing over whatever they can with the moves they just made. So, and here we are.
FanDuel has Hunter Brown and Framber tied with Joe Ryan for the fourth best odds to win the AL Cy Young. It's interesting because we're going to get into the starting pitching and the starting pitching that they didn't get. But of course, the guys that they got, those two guys, fourth best odds to win the AL Cy Young. So you still got the strength at the top. Hopefully these other guys are going to come back. But from the perspective of Brown and Framber, don't get too excited that they're the fourth best odds because they're plus 4,500. So they are a super long shot, even at fourth best odds. The heavy favorite, Tariq Skubal, at minus 490. And Clayton, I'm just going to tell people out there that are putting money on this, I have a hard time seeing him lose this because his whip is an insane 838 right now, 0.838, and his WAR is 5.7, which is nearly a point better than the next guy, Austin Crochet, who's the second favorite. So Clayton, I'd bet on Skubal.
Oh, that's easy money. You're betting money to lose money to bet on Skubal. And to your question earlier about what I bet, no, because it's a waste of money. Hunter had a stone's throw of a chance early in the season, right? He playing above his head. But as the season is borne out, I mean, he can't make up that ground. He's not. It's fine. The sky looks nice on paper being fourth best, but you read it off. It's a distant fourth best. It's literally way, way back there. It's like that Larry Bird story in the 3-point contest about, all right, guys, who's playing for second? So that's basically what it is. And you're not gonna put money down on Skubal unless you're just one of those guys like Masters Mac who just bets millions just to bet. Like, you're gonna lose money betting on Skubal. So you just avoid this one altogether.
Or just bet on Skubal and know that you're gonna have to bet a little bit more to make
anything.
That's the thing. It's
I mean,
one
you'd
of
be
those
right
things.
though.
Yeah, check out those odds on FanDuel. Maybe you do like Crochet at second, and maybe he's a good one to take a chance on because it's possible that guys slip up down the stretch. So there's still 2 months to go. It's a lot of time left.
That's true.
I got to put that a third of the season left to go. He's likely, if he wins, Skubal, not likely. If he wins, it's back-to-back Cy Youngs. Clayton, I got to ask you this. Who was the last AL pitcher to win back-to-back Cy Youngs? And I'm going to give you a hint. He is a former Astro who finished first and third in Cy Young in 2 Astro seasons, but it was with another team where he won the back-to-back Cy Youngs. Any guesses on that?
The guy who we let go to the Mets, and then he came back again, and now he's Giants right now, and they were going to trade him, that guy?
The Rocket. He won back-to-back in 97 and 98 with the Blue Jays. Roger Clemens. Everybody would think Clemens with the Yankees or, the Astros, but remember the Astros, he won first one year, but he won third the other. So like I said, it was Roger Clemens that did that. So former Astro, former Yankee and Blue Jay and Red Sox and all those teams. But
all those
little trivia for you. Let's talk about the trades that didn't happen. They tried to trade for a starting pitcher. The Astros did. 2 former aces, Dylan Cease and Sandy Alcantara, were the rumored targets all over social media, but both of them just having bad seasons. How disappointed were you the Astros didn't get them or any pitcher, frankly?
Yeah, I thought pitching might be something that they really wanted. I did see throughout social media, whether it was John Heyman, Nightingale, tags, right, talking about these trades picking up steam. My whole team was talking about it. I can tell you Alcantara amongst our group was not the favorite pick. If it was to come through, he was not the favorite one. Cease was the biggest fish that a lot of us agree we wanted, simply because you look at the numbers, he's not having his best season. However, the Astros are known for being that light switch flipping team where Kikuchi, Garrett Cole, right? Other dudes that they have transformed, right? Like they put their little fairy dust on, and for some reason they play like their best selves. So the thought was getting Dylan Cease over here, putting him in the factory, and just kind of doing what he does best with the Astros. That was going to be the thought, right? So it was amongst our group, it was Cease as the one option because of those things. Alcantara was like, But other teammates are saying like they would also settle for relief pitchers too. And one guy, he said he would rather have a decent relief pitcher over like a third or fourth starter at this point. So you gotta put those the top three: Cease, Alcantara, or some high leverage reliever instead of a third or fourth starter.
Yeah, my thing is they needed a starter because the problem is they're not getting five innings a lot of times, but they're definitely not getting 6 innings. And when you're asking these guys out of the bullpen to go 4 and 5, they're wearing down. And really, the Astros' issue is when these guys come back, the Javiers, the Garcias, the Arrighettis, they're not going to just come out and pitch 6 innings when they get called up. So you're going to have the bullpen is going to have so much pressure on them over the next 2 months. And I just feel like once that happens, they're dead tired when the playoffs roll around. And so they needed somebody that could just get six innings. Now, the problem was the 2 guys that they looked at having bad seasons. I don't know if they're given 6 innings much. Now, Cease has got it in him. He still had the great stuff. You look at his numbers, the strikeout rate, swing and miss stuff, it was just he was getting killed by little stuff. Maybe that was stuff that the Astros could correct. But of the 2, yeah, I think it was an easy. I mean, you're right. I mean, obviously Cease has got an incredible portfolio, but Alcantara's not bad. It's just if anybody didn't know, last year he was out with the injury. So he's still not, I don't think, 100%.
I'll ask you this question. So there was further debate over once Arrighetti, Javier, as you mentioned, those guys come back because of the fact, like you said, the dependence on the bullpen is going to be so high because of the fact that we're really limited on the back end of our pitching staff. We asked the question of like, okay, it seemed like it's a given, right? A starter might get moved to the bullpen. That was Gusto for a bit before he became a starter again by circumstance. But Rob, what do you think? If a starter had to get moved to the bullpen for that very purpose, who do you think goes? Like once 2 or 3 guys come back, who goes? I got my money on one guy, but I want to see what you think.
It would be Javier or Garcia because Walters pitched so well, and his stuff is not stuff. He's more of a 5th starter type stuff than he is a bullpen guy. Whereas Javier and Garcia have the real stuff, and just with them coming back from injury, I don't know if they can handle going the type of innings that you would need them to go.
Right.
So I would put them. I mean, Arrighetti, you would assume can handle it. He's not coming off a real shoulder or that type of, it's just a broken thumb. So the key for Arrighetti is just, they're going to have to keep him down there just so he can get sort of the muscles back and the speed back and go a little bit further. He's going through, more of the typical spring training, whereas Garcia and Javier are going through this really rehab / spring training.
I mean, it's been 2 years for those guys. It's been 2 whole years. Now, one name that I actually wrote about that I was speaking with Will Kunkel about earlier through his YouTube live, I brought up LMJ, right? But his thought was like he wouldn't do it. He said that his vote for LMJ was more so he just needs more consistency. So that wouldn't be the best of ideas.
My assumption was that LMJ might just be, I don't know if he's even going to pick. If some of these guys, like a lot of these guys come back, I mean, with LMJ anymore, I don't even assume he is going to be healthy. I don't assume, like with all these guys, I don't assume, but like McCullers, it's just, I mean, he's so off my radar at this point. McCullers would be the obvious guy, but he's like so off my radar. Like I was thinking in terms of, you were talking more about the guys that were rehabbing.
Look, I agree. I was just floating the name. I got to be diligent, right? Every stone has to be unturned, and everybody at this point is all hands on deck. So even the guys who are off the radar, you at least got to bring their names up. And I 100% agree. At this point, look, you got them, great. If you don't, I mean, okay, fine. It's been 2 years. I mean, we know what it's like without them. At least that won't be a conversation you need to have going into next season. So
overall, just your take on the entire trade deadline. How would you grade Dana Brown? Were you happy with overall what they did?
I love the aggressiveness that I saw from Dana Brown. I also like the savvy in that you did not part with any of like your super top prospects like you saw so many other teams like the Mariners with Suarez, and they got rid of Locklear. I want to say so. You didn't have to pay a lot of that stuff off. You got to keep a lot of your more quality guys, a lot of farmhands, which is good. Brice is still here for now. Cam's still here for now. I think you addressed the bigger weakness of the two. I think your pitching, you can kind of get away with it. Of course, you wanted to strengthen it, but hey, you address the infield, which was a super weakness with Isak being out 6 or 7 months, with Altuve being where he is. I think you did what you're supposed to do. So if I could give it like a letter grade, I would say a solid B to B plus for me. All things considered, B plus. I don't want to give it the homer answer, right? Because Correa, bump it up to an A. But no, all things considered, contract, team control, needs versus maybe what you could have got or what you didn't get at the buzzer, B plus. Could have been better.
Here's the thing I'm going to do with the Correa thing. Because I can't really understand what their thinking is going forward after this year with Correa, I'm going to take that out of the equation. And I'm going to just say for this trade deadline for this year, and also like the other two guys, there's no question that you've got some control over them for next year. So he gets a little bit of bonus for that. But I would just say A-, and I would have given him a straight up A+ if he was able to get the pitcher. To me,
yes,
I know everybody out there says, oh, the hitting was much more important. They got all these pitchers coming. My thing is, you just, I mean, I've said this over and over again, and people might be sick of me saying this. You can't have too much pitching. 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 I'm going to get it through your thick skulls, baseball fans. You cannot have too much pitching. And you got a bunch of guys that we have no idea what to expect from them going forward. Brandon Walter, Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, Spencer.
No idea.
I have no idea what these guys are going to do. And right now, the Astros have two real starters, period. They got two guys. They got Framber and they got Hunter Brown, and then they got garbage after that until these other guys come up and show that they're ready to go. No offense to Colton Gordon at all, but come on. I mean, this is what they've got for the rest of their starters. So, like, you can go, oh, we got to get this hitting. Look, games are decided in pitching in the postseason. I've seen it my entire life. That's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to starters. It's going to come down to bullpen. Yeah, there's going to be some key hits, but the Astros, I still think they've got some guys, despite Paredes not coming back, that even without Correa, I think they would have had enough offense to win some games in the postseason and do that. And we've seen them have huge games with, the garbage, AAA roster. And some of these guys are not even going to be here, obviously. Right. So I've got way more confidence that, Jeremy Pena is going to be fine, or Jake Myers might be okay, and that type of stuff. So we'll see. And Yordan, it's to be determined, but there's nobody that you would have found on the market that was going to replace to have Yordan. It's a game changer, and that's there is no bigger acquisition they can make at the trade deadline offensively. It's Yordan Alvarez, period.
Speaking of Yordan, I said this earlier to myself. I do think maybe the Astros have bought themselves some time with Yordan, to where if they felt like they were pressing a bit to not rush him back, but if he felt any pressure, if the team felt any pressure because of that void, I definitely think with like Urias and Correa and Jesus, you might have bought yourself a few more weeks, if not almost a month, of just like saying, hey, we got it. I'm thinking maybe, if you were pressing to have Yordan back by mid-August to late August, like Dana was kind of alleging, you can probably kick that can down the streets maybe beginning of September, maybe, and then roll the dice on him playing his way back into shape until October. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. It's a lot less pressure. Well, I guess I won't say a lot less, but a little bit less pressure to where you don't feel as needy for Yordan. He definitely is the night and day game changer to this team. He is your hammer. He is your infinity stone. He is your gauntlet. But I think you bought yourself a little bit more time to not feel as panicked about not having him back.
And it's a lot easier to go without him when Christian Walker and Altuve are having the type of Julys that they've got to continue to keep doing this. And then, we'll see Pena back here, and you add Correa and stuff like so. Just, that should start sorting itself out a little bit. And so we're seeing some, actually major league instead of AAA guys. Clayton is at 713 Sports Talk. Want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think about the trade deadline. Anything you want to plug, Clayton?
Not off the top of my head, no. It's just been a very full day. I literally, as we got on, my head just stopped swimming from all the trade updates and all that stuff. My whole day. You already kind of did, and I thank you for that. You plugged the show. I'll just plug this right here. Keep up with Rob. I mean, makes quality content all the time. He stays updated. He continuously educates me, and that's pretty much it. I don't have really any other plugs.
Sounds good. I mean, we'll just plug the fact that the Astros play this weekend against the Boston Red Sox and Alex.
That's right. That's right.
That's going to be good. Thanks a lot, guys, for everybody out there supporting the show, and we'll talk again soon.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.